well, the title of the panel was the Innovation Generation. And what we're going to focus on today is really about, it's really about how to empower youth and how to motivate youth to be more entrepreneurial and to pursue entrepreneurship. So we've got the perfect panelists to discuss that. And why don't we get going by, we'd like to hear your stories. What are you smiling about? All right, well, we're going to start with Ariel. And Ariel's from Chicago. And she's the youngest of the bunch. And she's going to tell us about what she's been up to.
Hello. My name is Ariel Buckingham, and I started a business named Smile Entertainment. I started this business when I was 16 years old, and now I'm 20. So, Smile Entertainment is the finest children birthday party coordinators in Chicago. From setup to cleanup, we make sure every party is beyond outstanding and everyone walks away with a smile. And I started the business in 2007, and I started with about 50 parties in a year. And then 2011, I maxed out at 250 parties while I'm still a full-time student at the University of Illinois, where I'll be graduating next year in May 2013. Thank you. I guess my story is that no one in my family has a business. No one in my family is an entrepreneur, and no one in my family even has a college degree. So here I am, 20, with my own business, speaking in Saudi Arabia, and graduating with a college degree next year. And actually, I think I'm the youngest one in the whole conference speaking, and this is my first time outside the United States in Saudi Arabia. But I've been to 23 states, so I think it's balanced out.
So I think we're going to have to talk later. I think you may need to learn something about self-promotion. So next up, Ariel's got a fantastic story, and you're going to hear lots more from her. Next up is Kyle. Kyle's a student at Stanford, and what's your story?
Great. So I think before I tell my story, I want to say thank you to Sagia and the people of Saudi Arabia for a great 2012 GCF conference. So a little bit about myself. I was involved with startups since I was 16. When I was in high school, I helped co-found 3 different businesses in a variety of different industries with a variety of different outcomes. Currently, I'm a senior at Stanford, majoring in atmosphere and energy engineering. And the company that I'm working on right now is called Pixly, and the short pitch for that is that we are a Flickr for businesses.
Describe that a little bit more.
Okay. So how many people here have heard of Flickr? Facebook. Great. So we think these are great companies, but we believe that the needs of individuals and the needs of businesses are a little bit different. So what we're doing is we're creating a feature set and design that focuses around the needs of businesses. We help businesses use photos as a portal for sales and marketing.
Very interesting. All right, Tammy, you're up.
Hi, Sadia, thank you very much for having me. It's just been a pleasure. This is my first time in the country. Not in the GCC, but again, thank you. My name is Tammy Camp. I started my first company when I was 21. I think I've had 6 or so since then, with various outcomes as well, as all entrepreneurs have. I got started back in 2001 during the dot-com days.
So what kind of business was that?
It was actually an ad technology platform. So
okay.
I would...
All right, describe it.
Yeah. So I would basically buy media in different countries, such as Germany, the UK, and Australia, and expand companies like eBay or Hotwire or Priceline or Amazon into those companies by buying their digital media. And yeah, so I started that when I was a senior in university, and I barely finished university because it just took off.
What led you to start that? Was it a course that you took or somebody that you knew? What inspired that?
I was traveling throughout Europe, and I had met a gentleman that was doing the same thing for NextCard.
Okay.
Remember that back, and I think it used to be the internet NextCard when Yahoo was still on everybody's home pages.
Okay.
And he just took me under his wing for, I don't know, like a couple of weeks. And then I kind of reverse engineered it and launched a similar model in different markets.
Okay, great. Thank you. Casper, do you want to give us a little bit of background?
I'm completely opposite. I tried to launch a business when I was 7 by soaking Hessian sacks in water and giving it a really horrible orange color, and then filling empty Fanta bottles and selling them at the end of my garden. But my father found out, and he beat me so hard that I joined the army. And I left after 11 years and started a media business, which I sold to Pearson, and I now run Pearson's vocational and professional education business.
So Casper's joining us. He's got a lot of insight in terms of education and what motivates and inspires young entrepreneurs. So, we've heard your stories now, and I guess, one of the first things that comes to mind is you're young, and what are the differences, or what do you think the differences are, in particular the advantages and disadvantages of being young and being an entrepreneur? Kyle, why don't we start with you?
So I think one obvious advantage is when you're young, you have a lot of energy. And obviously, when you're starting a business, having this energy is going to help you out a lot. In addition, growing up, at least in our generation, growing up with technology really changes things a lot. First and foremost, I think technology levels the playing field, especially when dealing with competing directly against a lot of Fortune 500 companies.
What do you mean by that? Give us an example.
So I think technology changes the speed in which things can be developed. A lot of young developers now, especially at Stanford, are building products that are solving inefficiencies that perhaps some Fortune 500s don't even see.
And is this primarily software development,
A lot
like
of it's
websites and?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. A lot of it is software development. And I think one thing that people always talk about with technology is the use of social media and how social media affects businesses these days. And I think that with social media, besides the general marketing and public relations and other stuff they can get with it, as a young person, through social media, you are exposed to so much more diversity of opinions, which I think is incredibly important as an entrepreneur.
Fantastic, thanks. So Tammy, you're also a coder. You grew up learning to write software. So,
Right.
in terms of your progression and your businesses, 21 years old, really young still, in college, as a student, what were the advantages and disadvantages for you?
The advantage these days to start a business, you can start a business with virtually no money these days. I mean, proof of concept, put some Google ads up and see if it's even going to sell. Just put a blank page up there and see if there is a demand and market for it. I mean, what, $100 to see if you have proof of concept? So that's completely the advantage to starting a business these days.
Talk about that just a little bit more, because that's been a lot in the press in the U.S. recently. Just the concept of test marketing something by just basically putting an ad up there, right? So walk us through that. What does that look like?
Okay, so if I wanted to say that I was going to create a technology that was going to replace newspapers, I didn't want to carry around newspapers or have them delivered. And I just wanted to call this thing an iPad. And I would target probably a demographic that was conscious of not being wasteful in terms of printing. And
when you
was
say
always on the go.
target, you mean
Targeting.
using like AdWords on Google?
I would
or?
target the age group, like the demographic, your user base. Who are you selling to? Who is this product? Who's going to use this product? And you can do that with all of these platforms that we have today. And you you understand your audience. You create a product for them, and then you can test it. You can test it to see, if they like it in red or if they like it in black. Like, how many orders will you get from putting up these small campaigns?
So are you saying that you can test the market for a product even before you have the product?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's part of what technology is today in terms of AdWords and putting up a website really quickly and things like that?
Absolutely, yeah.
What about the downside for you? Were there any disadvantages to being 21 years old and in college?
Especially back in 2001, I was a coder, and then a lot of my coders were in foreign places like Russia or India, and like for me, just being a woman, I had to pretend for the longest time that I was a male. So I had
Really?
like a guy's name for a long time when I was talking to all of my developers. So that was always interesting. I was kind of like J.K. Rowling, how she started off like that. So that was one disadvantage. Another is it's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. Like,
I'm just curious in terms of being a woman. Did you decide to use a man's name based on some experience that you had,
right.
or
Back to test marketing. So I would have my username,
Okay.
or like I think it was back Hotmail chat those days.
Okay.
One that was very feminine, like my name,
Okay.
Tammy. And then I think I would use like the developer, something super generic,
Okay.
So I would be talking to the same programmers, and you could see the responses were completely different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating. Ariel, you always smile, so I don't know if there's any downside
I
to.
can't help it. I'm sorry.
That's great.
So disadvantages, especially at being 16 with a business. It took me like 6 months to get my first customer, and actually it was a teacher at my school, because I was just like, please, just trust me. It's because going against my competition, like places you go to arcades with children's birthday parties, it's why should I trust you? I'm not going to pay you what I wanted to charge. I charged $250 because of my skills and customer service with my smile, but they didn't believe in me. Like a lot of people, even to be honest, my family didn't think I was serious. When I turned 18, Nifty, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, in 2009, I won Global Young Entrepreneur of the Year. So my mother didn't know that I was serious about a business until I told her we're going to New York because I wanted an award, and she was like, no, I'm not paying for that. And then I was like, it's free, I won an award. And then that's when we went to New York, and then she saw me give a speech about my business, and we came home, then she telling the whole neighborhood, my baby has a business, she's old. So at that turning point, it got better. But advantages of being a youth entrepreneurship, like Cal said, we have a lot of energy. I have a lot of room for failures, which we can both say we had. It's been times where I arrived late to a birthday party, and because of the things I learned from Nifty with the business plan, I choose not to charge them because I felt bad, because the children was there before me because of car troubles, and it's just those type of failures that I can come back, and then the lady called me the next year to do a different party for her. So it was just those type of things.
So hold the thought on Nifty, because I want to come back to that.
Okay.
All right, Casper, you have a lot of perspective on this, and so what do you think, just from the wiser, older vantage point? Is that okay? What's your perspective on sort of the advantages and disadvantages of being young and being an entrepreneur?
I think the energy is huge, and the willingness to accept setbacks is much more likely to happen when you're young for very obvious reasons. You've probably got fewer dependents or drag coefficients, as some people like to call them, when they mean children and and wives and husbands and dogs. You do, if you're raising capital and you're raising venture capital, you ironically probably have a greater challenge of credibility, because the people who hold the capital are old men generally in grey suits, and I know Silicon Valley is a bit different to that, but across the rest of the world, we were hearing how difficult it was to get hold of venture capital, and it helps a lot if you've got success under your belt, because at the end of the day, that maximizes the likelihood of success. But I would say that actually the majority of businesses that we're going to see started successfully and that exit successfully will be started by a generation particularly that are digital natives and not digital immigrants. And I think that it's our job to ensure that our education system maximizes the potential of our youth to start those businesses.
Actually, that's a great segue. I think we should spend a little bit of time talking about education. So you guys have accomplished so much and you're so young. Where did this come from? Like, did you take classes? Did you read books? Was there a particular role model in your lives? Like, where did it come from? How were you educated as an entrepreneur?
So I can start by saying that in our generation, no one tells you that you can own your own business, or no one tells you that you can become an entrepreneur. I was either supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a basketball player. Those wasn't working. So it was a program.
Nobody ever said that to me.
No.
The basketball player
it's
part.
It's the different communities. It's because Chicago, we the basketball team. But no, it was so nifty. What I was talking about, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, where the CEO actually spoke on the panel on Sunday.
Yep, Amy Rosen.
Amy Rosen. It's a program globally, a non-for-profit that's inside of high school. So I was privileged with the opportunity to be in the high school that Nifty was at. Nifty teaches students how to make a business plan, from the income statement to the market analysis to social responsibility. So that is where I learned everything. And then from there, I met mentors and got opportunities like coming to Saudi Arabia. Do
you want to say that again?
Coming to Saudi Arabia. Thank you. But I'm also counting Germany as the country I've been to.
Right, we heard you had a
I stopped
stopover.
in Frankfurt, yeah. But that's where I learned
counts.
everything from.
Great. So, and I'm just curious, did you start your current business while in Nifty, or did you start another business in Nifty and then move on once you graduated from the Nifty program to start your business?
So in Nifty, you have to create a business plan, and you have to create a business to make a business plan.
Okay.
So we was talking about earlier about how entrepreneurs are born, or man-made, or self-educated. So out of 29 students, about 3 of them is going to take it seriously. And I took mine seriously. And after I graduated the program, after a year, I was like, I want to do this for real. And then it's been 4 years, and I'm in Saudi Arabia.
Thanks. Tammy, how about you? Tell us, education, like obviously great education, learn to code, all that stuff, but where did the entrepreneurial education come from?
I didn't learn to code while I was in college. My father was in intelligence for the Army, so I started with advanced communication systems since 6 years old. Just kind
Wait,
of like,
can you repeat that? What did you do at 6 years old?
well, build like radio towers, or I had a Commodore 64 when I was 6, and I remember saving the data on cassette tapes.
Right, so it was just like the Apple II, right? The early generation computers.
Commodore 64, I think that was before Apple II. No?
I think it was.
Yeah. I'm like old
was it?
school. So I definitely self-educated.
Okay.
But I've had an interesting turn in terms of my entrepreneurship. So I'm 11 years in, and I did this really interesting program at NASA this year that I spent 10 weeks at, and they took 80 participants from 35 different countries around the world and put us in a think tank where we learned all about exponential technologies, from nanotechnology, biotechnology, computation and networking, space, as well as AI and robotics. futures and forecasting, and we're supposed to take all of that knowledge and be able to positively impact 1 billion people within 10 years by solving the grand challenges of the world. And the grand challenge
Right,
areas
sure.
were energy, education, global health, space, poverty, and security.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to do now is, I'm gearing myself to have more of a macro
Okay.
impact in terms of my entrepreneurship.
Okay. How about your college experience, though? When you were in college,
Yeah.
just because obviously this was a direction you're
Yeah.
going, did you take any specific courses in
No,
entrepreneurship? Just
No, not at all. I was a film and music major. I actually wrote my own degree. That's how I did. I was
That's-
always a rebel. I was like, this degree that you have, this is not, this is not for me. So I wrote my own, and I was the first to graduate with it. So, and then I ended up doing technology. So,
wow, fantastic. Kyle, how about you? And actually, are you going to graduate or are you going to drop out?
Well, I graduate in June, so hopefully I'll graduate.
You're not going to try to one-up like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and like drop out the day before graduation?
No, I think my mom would be pretty upset with that,
Okay.
given how much money she's invested in my education. So, in terms of lessons that I've learned, I think one thing that isn't mentioned enough about entrepreneurship, especially with young people, is how difficult it is. And when I was 16, I obviously did not know that much about business. And the way that I started out with entrepreneurship is I spent every Friday and Saturday in Barnes & Noble's reading business books in the business section. And when Barnes & Noble was closed, I took a picture of the pages and read them on the train. Like, it is not glamorous stuff. It was very difficult stuff. But I think you have to realize at a young age that it's going to take a tremendous amount of work. In high school, I also went through the NIFTY program in junior achievement. And through that, I've definitely developed more practical business skills. And obviously now, while I'm at Stanford at college, I've developed more skills and just developed a much more better perspective on the world's issues.
So I want to ask more about these programs because we have the leadership of both of those programs. Sean Rush from Junior Achievement is here, as well as Amy Rosen from NIFTY. So since you did both, why don't I let you, Kyle, speak about Junior Achievement, and then maybe Ariel, if you have anything more to add about NIFTY, that would be terrific.
Sure. So my junior achievement experience is actually very similar to my NIFTY experience. We went through the New York City Business Plan Competition where we worked with some mentors, which is also very key when you're young. We worked with some mentors to develop this business idea called My College Stat, which basically aggregated user-submitted college admission data, and we won the city championship. We got a nice scholarship from that, but that eventually turned into my first business and my first failure.
We'll get to that in a moment. We're going to talk about failure. But Ariel, anything more to add about NIFTY?
NIFTY and Junior Achievement are the same, which is some of the advantages that we get. It's actually a lot of non-for-profit organizations that go into schools and teach youth entrepreneurship, how to develop a business plan, and the mindset and the skills to have as an entrepreneur, which is the advantage and what we're supposed to be talking about today. that youth is a great market to because youth, we are the future generation, innovation to generation. But so putting time and hope into the youth, like these NIFTY and Junior Achievement does, comes out to like me and Cal and Tammy becoming entrepreneurs at such a young age.
So what's it feel like to be the future?
I don't think too many people, especially in Chicago, can say that they came to Saudi Arabia to speak at a conference. So it feels good.
I'm pretty sure that's true. It's what we call a true fact. So, Casper, let me start with you. I want to get on the topic of failure. So, of the four of you, you've had the most time to fail, as have I. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about a failure or an experience that led to some big lessons for you?
There's a great quote by Thomas Edison, who's as good an entrepreneur as you can get. And he said, "I've never failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." And I've found so many ways that don't work in my life. I'd keep you here all day if I began to tell you about what they were, even the first 100. I think that if you realize that it's a natural part of starting a business that you're going to have setbacks, and if you react well to those setbacks and actually occasionally find that your business plan has been impacted positively because the assumption that you made was totally wrong, then you should almost welcome them. I think that failure is the wrong word to use. I think ways that don't work is a much more effective way. But I challenge anybody who's ever started a successful business not to have had a lot of those, a lot of that experience in their life.
You know, that's been a big part of our conversation over the past few days is, you know, failure in many parts of the world is something that people avoid at all costs. And, you know, it's really special that each of you have taken this attitude of being able to look at these experiments. And as you said, you know, it's really an opportunity to learn and to grow. Any particular situations stand out? The reason I ask, I think it's helpful for, if you're willing, for each of us to share perhaps, you know, something that happened because, you know, I think when we talk about failure in very abstract terms, it's, you know, perhaps may not have the meaning. I'd love to hear we can come back, but I'd love to hear an example of failure.
I can jump in on that if you need help. So in terms of failure, like I think like in sports, when you fail, losing makes winning feel better. And I think that's really important to kind of develop that.
Wait, hold on. Can you repeat that?
Losing makes winning feel better.
Okay.
So, and one topic that's been discussed a lot throughout this forum has been entrepreneurial drive. And I think really losing and dealing with failure really helps develop that strong entrepreneurial drive. In terms of my experience with failure, when my startups failed, one of the key things that, one of the reasons why I failed, to be completely honest, was the fact that I had difficulty dealing with other people. I was very, you know, I was a little bit arrogant. You know, I had a hard time dealing with individual people. So being exposed to that and failing at such a young age allowed me to kind of correct those inefficiencies of mine. For example, like during college, like I just joined a lot of student groups, and I helped develop these interpersonal skills so that I work much better on a team environment. And because of that, I think I'm gonna be much more effective with my next company.
Did you ever lose a sale or somebody walk away from you because you were a little bit arrogant or just not comfortable with that interaction?
Well, what I mean by that is more dealing with your team.
Okay.
And dealing with teams, especially at a young age, very young teams. There's lots of emotion and lots of a little bit of immaturity. And that goes back to the disadvantages of being young. There's definitely some immaturity there. But again, when you're young and you fail, I think you learn a lot more than when you succeed.
Tammy, how about you? Any examples of failure? You know, if the types of failure where you learned a big lesson from?
I think mine are similar to Kyle's. It's always been, you know, myself that's
Okay.
basically throwing the wrench into the engine, just because I, you know, had that similar situation where I was like very successful at an early age, and I was kind of arrogant, and when it came time for me to work on teams, it was very, very difficult because I was coding for like 3 or 4 years, and you know, my interpersonal skills were terrible because I was behind a computer and, you know, isolated. So yeah, a lot of, you know, I had to change my communication style. I had to, there's a great book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
Yep.
And I would recommend that to all of you guys. Or at least watch the TED Talk. I think it's one of the top 10 TED videos, and it's just how to inspire people, because yeah, at the end of the day, people don't want to be told what to do or talked at. People want to be inspired. They want to inspire. You don't want them to work for you. You want them to work with you. And learning how to inspire people to take action on your behalf is the most valuable thing that you can do.
Thanks. Tammy, do you have any stories of failure?
Oh, you call me Tammy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ariel. Sorry about that. I had it on my mind.
I fail all the time.
So what's an example?
The biggest example is that I smile too much, and people take it as they try to, what it's called, like, make me a pushover. So
Okay.
I fail because, like, if your party costs $400 and you only gave me $200, then it's hard for me to say no. Like, excuse me, you owe me $2 more $100. So I lose a lot of, not no more, because
Okay.
it's been 4 years. So I'm kind of
Toughened up.
I toughen up a little bit. But that's been my biggest failure for the last 3 years, actually.
Okay.
Losing money, doing more than I'm supposed to have done. So,
Okay.
But it's been a tough road.
Has anybody on the panel lost money for investors? You're shaking your head up and down, or? Okay. That's always an interesting experience to go through. So, all right, we talked a little bit about education, and, I think one of the things that all of us talked about beforehand is the importance of getting youth engaged. That each of you has taken your own pathway to become an entrepreneur and to do entrepreneurial things. And so you've learned a lot firsthand recently. What are your thoughts on that? I want to ask Casper first. You've got a lot of interaction, young people, great perspective on this. How do we engage young people?
So this session's called the Innovation Generation, and I think we should be really careful that we don't take that for advantage. We don't take it at face value. Whether or not we're sitting in Riyadh or whether or not we're sitting in New York. And I really, truly believe that we should engage with children at an incredibly young age to give them a set of skills which don't make them into entrepreneurs, because that's a very personal choice, but which give them a set of skills that can be applied to business and the rest of their life. Very simply, when they're old enough to get them comfortable with the most basic forms of numbers that lead to the most basic forms of accounting, when they're old enough to make role models out of entrepreneurs and make heroes out of inventors, and to tell them stories about these people who've created wealth and created jobs, but at the same time changed the world for the better. They've invented penicillin, they've invented flight, they've invented communication technology, and really have young people from the earliest age fall in love with the impossible, but be given a set of skills, which means that when it comes to running a company, they're not frightened of what that means and what it takes. And at the very least, you will get a generation that will be better managers. And at the very best, you'll have people who start companies quicker, because all of that area which they're so frightened about, that which they don't know, won't occur. So I think it's incumbent on us and on our educators to think about how we educate our children. And the last thing I'd say is what we really need to do is involve the generation that's sitting next to me in doing that. In the UK, we've got all these IT exams set by these people who really don't understand IT, doing PowerPoint presentations and not programming. It's a perfect example of how we need to engage a generation below in the education of the youngest.
So you raise one of the ideas is role models. And I know actually from my conversation with Ariel earlier that you're a role model. At your age, you're a role model, you're a hero. As a matter of fact, I learned earlier that Ariel's even an advisor and role model to many adults in her community. Can you tell us about that? How did that happen? What do you do? How do you help people?
I've been told I'm easy to talk to. So people walk up to me, especially because And well, in Chicago, like I've been on the news and the newspapers for Smile Entertainment, and then what I do into my community, because as an entrepreneur, I think we are the future. And I open jobs. I have 4 Smile certified employees. They don't smile as much as me, but they are certified.
They still smile.
They still
Is that
smile.
was that a qualification for the job? Like-
Yeah, Smile certified. And we donated over 500 hours to community service over the past 4 years.
Wow.
So that's in like tutoring children and reading and math, cleaning up parks. I like to make senior citizens smile because don't nobody visit them. So by being in the community, people come up to me and ask me, I want to start a business. I helped a man in my community start a transportation business, and because of that, I only hired 4 people, but he has 10 employees. So because I share wisdom, because I tell people my story, then they can do the same thing and give back to the community, and then my community grows within ourselves.
That's amazing. So at your age, you're already responsible for 12, 14 jobs. Fantastic. Tamia, how about you? What's that? How do you engage with, in terms of inspiring, teaching, helping out others?
I think that one of people that I look up to now is Peter Diamandis. He started X Prize, so I really believe in actually Conrad Foundation as well. They both have innovation competitions. The Virgin Galactic, the first suborbital plane was purchased from the X Prize. There was a $10 million prize purse for who can have the first suborbital plane, privately made, not government. And they got $100 million worth of innovation for a $10 million prize. So you can, through competition, you actually have something that's quantified. You have an end goal, and yeah, it's like we're at the Global Competitiveness Forum. I mean,
Yeah.
you're on the line, and you can get, as a community, I guess, as a leader, you can get a lot out of your community by having these competitions.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more of that in the United States, right? As a matter of fact, Stanford sponsors quite a few entrepreneurship-related competitions. Have you participated in some of those?
I actually haven't participated in any of them. I have a lot of friends that have.
Okay.
We have an incubator, we have business plan competitions.
Okay.
We have a few courses that are geared around entrepreneurship. One of them that I'm in right now is a VC course where 15 students, entrepreneurs as well, they sit and they just hear from VCs and have one-on-one interaction with all the time. And I think that kind of mentorship that
And VCs being venture capitalists.
yes,
right?
sorry.
Okay.
And I think we get a lot of mentorship from them
Okay.
as well. So I think that's definitely one key aspect to kind of developing young entrepreneurs.
What about giving back, paying it forward? Are there any things that you're involved with? I mean, everybody here has been helped out by so many other people, programs like Nifty, JA. Is it too early in your careers to be doing that, or is that something that you do as Ariel does?
Well, I had to first say that I think being on this panel with Ariel makes me look like a lot worse of a person. She's definitely a lot nicer than I am in terms of community service and smiling and all that. But I really do try to give back to the entrepreneurial community. And I think as an entrepreneur, you want to give back to this community because as this community progresses, it definitely helps you out as a business owner. I definitely try my best when it comes to giving advice to younger entrepreneurs. Granted, I don't have as much business expertise as Casper or you do, but I try my best to kind of give my perspective as part of the innovation generation.
Excellent. Casper, any more thoughts just in terms of mentoring or ideas for how young entrepreneurs can help one another or contribute, pay back to the community?
I think we can learn from what's happening in the States and what's happening in the UK. There's a fantastic organization called the Founders Forum in the UK. This is a group of about 200 entrepreneurs who have successfully sold their businesses, and not only are they there to provide mentors, to the extent that non-executive directors are no longer being appointed to a lot of startup companies, but mentors are there instead. But just as importantly, they've become, in their own right, a source of capital when venture capitalists are difficult to access. Go in front of people who've started businesses, sold businesses, and can not only give you the money, but give you the advice too.
Okay, fantastic. So we've only got a little bit of time left because I think the sessions were compressed a little bit. Let me just ask one last question, which is basically if you could leave everyone in the audience with one key takeaway with regard to young people and entrepreneurship and basically how to get young people engaged, what would that be? Maybe Kyle, want to start? Or Tammy?
I would have to say, if you're a young person at home watching this, my key advice would be stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused. I think any entrepreneur in here will tell you that entrepreneurship and starting your own company, it will definitely be one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do, but it'll also be one of the most rewarding things. I think success or failure, I think it'll also be one of the most rewarding things.
Tammy.
I think don't sell yourself short. The sky's the limit. You know, if not you, who? If not now, when?
I'd say that those of you in this room who have kids should ensure that they add entrepreneur to the list of lawyer, doctor, accountant, and banker.
I would say that, so in the classroom that Nifty teaches, like I said, only 3 people take it seriously, but that's 3 out of 30. But those other 27 students all learned like qualities and skills to use in the future, in their lives, in their career paths. So like business, everybody don't need to become an entrepreneur, but you can apply for the marketing analysis and the income statement to living your life in the future. So it's business, learning entrepreneurship and business concept change your life for the better.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank our panelists. You guys have been great. I know we didn't get to any Q&A for this panel, so are you able to stick around a little bit if people have questions or want to speak with you? Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been fantastic.